doing the Sunday morning pregame show, but I'm here ongoing for two and an evening for once, specifically the fantasy cheat sheet. Happy Halloween. Good to be back. Jordan, good to see your face. It's been a while. How you doing?
I'm good, man. It has been a while. Like I told you off air, like the costume, ready to talk some football with you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Looking forward to talking some football with you as well. Jamie, how you doing tonight? Good to see you as always.
Yeah, happy Halloween. I see you're in your round burgundy. Jordan's the only one
Yes.
here without a costume.
Got my
Yeah,
mug.
I'm a Canadian today.
I
Hey,
just went trick or treating with the kids, so I hung up the costume.
What was
nice.
the costume?
Um, I don't even know if you guys watch Abbott Elementary, but
Yeah.
Gregory Eddie. So
Oh, I do not. See, I do not have kids. Not that I know of anyway. Hopefully we keep it that way. With that in mind, we'll go no further. We'll just jump into some NFL news. It was a day filled with news around the league. Before we talk about the trade deadline, let's talk about Kenny Pickett. He intends to play on Thursday Night Football. Are we surprised by that? Jordan, I'll go to your thoughts first.
No, I'm not surprised, but I think maybe he shouldn't play with the quick turnaround and everything like that, considering he had to leave the game on Sunday. I'm not surprised a football player wants to try to be tough and play, but I definitely think he should probably get those 10 days off and try to come back at it next Sunday.
Do you think there's an impact then in regards to the fantasy production for Kenny Pickett this week and those weapons in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I think anytime a guy goes into a game banged up, is it's possible he leaves the game early. It re-aggravates an injury. But if he is just not good, it's obviously going to affect the weapons overall. So I think they would just be best served just going with Trubisky this for the Thursday night game.
And Jamie, what are your thoughts on Kenny Pickett?
I think they should sit him, but they're not. And it's a must-win game for the Steelers because they're playing for that wild card spot,
Mm,
and it is a weak secondary. So, I mean, they're going to put a plate on him. I'm sure he'll do all right. I'm not expecting much.
no.
Yeah, I'm not expecting much either. Injuries suck, but your fantasy team doesn't have to. And that's the name of a Going for Two Legends book. Doc, James Ferretti. Go check it out on Amazon. Also, in the news, we have other injury stuff. Again, with that book, you could learn a lot, understand this stuff a lot more. We have Stafford as day to day with the UCL sprain in his right thumb. Obviously, not ideal for someone that's throwing the ball and someone that has an injury history. Jordan, any takeaways from that? Or same old, same old?
Well, Matthew Stafford is a guy who's typically banged up in some way, shape, or form. He tried to gut through it. Had a drive after he injured it against Dallas, and then he couldn't. Probably is going to affect his ability to grip the ball. So I'm worried about it. I'm as a guy who has a lot of Puka shares, but I think if he can get through some practice time, maybe. But I mean, same thing with Pickett. I mean, if the guy can't grip the ball, just sit it out, man, and we'll cross our fingers with Rippy and hope hope for the best.
Jamie, thoughts on Stafford?
Yeah, I mean, he does have the weapons that he can just ding and dunk it real quick, and then they can make plays after the catch. So, yeah, we just got to keep an eye on it, see how he practices.
Yeah, TBD there, but still never want to see it on the throwing hand. So fingers crossed that he can still produce like normal, throw the rock like normal. Without going over any other stuff, I think we'll just jump right into the trades. It was a trade deadline. I don't want to call it a good one. I'll get more into that later. First and foremost, Chase Young, San Francisco 49er. Jamie, I'll go to you first. Thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, dude, they're gonna have Chase Young and Boza on each side. That's a recipe for success right there, man. I don't know how you're gonna be able to game plan for both of them.
A year ago this time, it was Christian McCaffrey, too. Talk about big swings back to back years. Jordan, your thoughts with Chase Young?
I'm gonna get a little bit more into the Commanders later on in the show, but just with this, it's like I don't know, man. For the 49ers, obviously it's a great deal. You give up like a third round pick, I think it was, for a guy who was the second overall pick in the draft. Obviously the talent's there. He's been banged up, but you pair him with what they already have, and I mean he's not asked to do as much. I like it for the Niners for sure.
Yeah, it says a lot about where the Commanders are at right now. They clearly didn't want to get rid of anything on the offensive side of the ball, but they were cleaning house, and I was not anticipating seeing Chase Young move. I think we all agree that was the biggest trade of the day. Some other names that were moved: Montez Sweat went to
Yes.
Chicago, Leonard Williams to Seattle, Kevin Byard to Philly, Ezra Cleveland, Jacksonville, Joshua Dobbs, Minnesota, Donovan People-Jones, Detroit, Rasul Douglas,
Mm,
Buffalo, Contavious Street, Atlanta, McCole Hardman, Kansas City, Randy Gregory, San Francisco, J.C. Jackson, New England, Claypool, Miami, Van Jefferson, Atlanta, Cam Akers, Minnesota. That was all the trades this year in
mhm.
2023. And Schefter managed to put them in one tweet. But with that in mind, obviously I listed all of them. Any other names that really stood out to you? Jordan, I'll go to you first there.
I mean, one of the more important ones I felt like was, for fantasy purposes, was Dobbs going to Minnesota. That kind of stood out to me, obviously, with Kirk being out for the rest of the season with a torn ACL. I was worried about the weapons, still kind of worried about them because, I mean, obviously, Kirk was a top 7 fantasy quarterback so far. Dobbs has shown promise in Arizona, so I think they won't fall off a cliff. So I can take we can all take a collective side that the weapons won't the production won't completely fall off a cliff, and we can expect Justin Jefferson to be solid when he gets back.
Jamie,
Nope.
thoughts on on any of those names I mentioned?
Yeah, well, going off Dobbs, man, I was hoping either Cleveland would either try to trade for Dobbs back or my man Jacoby Brissett, because we need a quarterback. I don't know, Watson ain't it, but the one thing that stuck out to me was DPJ, Donovan Peoples-Jones, going to Detroit. Pretty much is going to be the Marvin Jones replacement. He could earn a role this year. They could extend him even after this year because his contract's up. But I can see him earn some targets that could be like fantasy reliable, man. I'd pick him up if I were you guys.
Peoples-Jones is going to look great in a Chiefs uniform next year.
I would love that,
Um,
man.
Yeah,
He's got Chiefs written all over it. He fits right in with the McCole Hardmans, the MVSs of the world.
Just
He'll
that
fit
big
right
body
in.
guy that can get down the field.
A guy that never really lived up to his potential, and he's going to get another chance.
Mm-hmm.
Kansas City
I,
lives for those guys.
I know DPJ doesn't play the same role as this guy, but will we ever see Jameson Williams do anything for Detroit?
Oh, I think we will. Let's give it time, though. He's still only a couple weeks into his career. So with that in mind, I know he was technically there last year, but I still just view him as
Yeah,
a
right.
rookie right now. So, I'm still in that acclimation period, especially when he wasn't there getting a rhythm to start the year. Um, but I don't see DPJ cutting into that. It's a very underwhelming trade deadline for fantasy football relevance. I mean, offensive side of the ball, Joshua Dobbs, Donovan Peoples-Jones, McCole Hardman, Chase Claypool, Van Jefferson, Cam Akers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we can all agree we expected some bigger names to be on that list.
Yes.
But with that in mind, we'll spend no more time on the trade deadline because there's not much that needs to be said about it unless we're doing a whole bunch of IDP stuff, which we're not. So, I did want to talk about it later. Kind of wanted to keep it on theme for trade deadline. We won't discuss it right now, but I wanted to hit you guys with this at a later point in the show of potentially guys you're looking to target in fantasy at the trade deadline. But we'll get into that a little bit later. First, let's go into our Monday Night Football. We're on Tuesday now. Entering the following week, but we had our final game of Week 8. That was the Raiders versus the Lions. Jordan, what was your takeaway there?
Um, Devontae Adams and the frustration that he seems to be open with showing, I think is going to continue to build. I mean, obviously, you go a one catch for 11-yard performance. He hasn't had over, I think it was 60 yards since week 4. That's not. I mean, I didn't expect him to live up to where a lot of people were drafting him. However, the performances right now have been completely only 100-yard game so far this season. I mean, he's obviously pissed. He's showing it. He's talking about it. I was hoping there was a chance he would get traded today, but obviously, if he didn't restructure his contract yesterday, then that deadline passed, and it was unlikely he would get traded today. I don't know what the heck the Raiders are doing. They don't know what the heck they're doing. And it's just looking like a dumpster fire for that offense in general. Josh Jacobs was asked, "What can they do to fix it?" He said, "I don't know. This is not my job." So I like it's just it's just a lot of stuff. And I knew they would be a bad team, but it's just Adams' production for a guy like that. The money you paid, what you invested in him, to see this production, I know it's frustrating for him, and I'm assuming the team is frustrated as
I
well.
think you should have just ended on that first part where you said Josh Jacobs was ass. Not asked. We didn't need to just ask. Yes. That's the whole Raiders offense. Not good right now. I agree. The frustrations are building all the way around, and it's hard to see any sort of turning point in season that's good for the fantasy. Jamie, thoughts on Devontae before we jump
Yeah,
into?
I mean, did you guys see that meme where you had like 2 Ferraris under an awning next to a trailer in a trailer
Yes,
park?
Josh
You
Jacobs.
got Max Crosby and
Oh,
Devontae Adams, man. Like,
yeah,
yeah,
dumpster fire, man.
yep,
It's
dumpster fire.
It's even worse than we could have expected. I mean, I think the expectations were relatively low with Jimmy G, but we still expected it to be enough. Right now, it hasn't been the case. I had one matchup where I only needed 1.7 fantasy points from Jimmy G to win. I won by a whole 1.3 points.
Right.
Or something like that. It wasn't, I was like, oh, cool, I'll win by 20. Oh, no, I won by 2.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the life of any Raiders player in your starting lineup right now. With that in mind, let's talk about the other side of the ball. Jamie, take us to your big takeaway from the Monday Night Football game.
Yeah, I know. It's Gibbs, man. He had a huge breakout game. He was number 1 overall running back this week. He had 29.9 points. Last week, he was top 3 with 27 points. But the difference was last week, he only had like 11 carries and I think 9 receptions. But this week, he showed that he could handle a full workload with 26 carries, 5 catches. So that's 31 touches right there, 152 yards on the ground. He had 37 through the air. Just to give you an idea, like the Raiders, their total offense only had 206 something yards.
Yeah.
That's almost just as much as Gibbs had the whole game. So I know Montgomery's going to be back soon, but this just showed us a glimpse of what he could be for our teams. And it's a relief to see the people that drafted him early in rookie drafts. It's a relief to know that he could actually handle this kind of workload.
So, fun fact, did you know that DeAndre Swift had 3 big weeks, or he had 4 weeks inside the top 10 last year?
At the beginning of the year.
Yeah, in 2022, Gibbs had 4 inside the top 10. The reason why I say that more specifically is because, I view Gibbs like I view Swift.
Yeah.
And we've seen Swift have those big weeks, but it wasn't consistent. And that's where I like it right now. We're seeing those flashes, but I'm still very much so nervous when it comes David Montgomery coming back from bye, coming back healthy, what it looks like then. Because I still do view that as a 50-50. Like Monty's been way too consistent and they're paying him way too much to just have him ride the pine and just feed the hot hand in Gibbs. And we've just never known them as an offense to do that. So I like what we saw from Gibbs. I'm still nervous for this year, but I think if you have Gibbs, especially in a dynasty format, a week like that is making you feel really good about going forward. Jordan, any thoughts on Gibbs?
Yeah, I agree with you guys. The thing, they gave him the workload, I think, because like Zach mentioned, they're going on bye next week, so he can rest up. But I do expect Montgomery to be fully healthy coming back from that bye, and it'll go back to a split. Now I will say Montgomery's been banged up twice this year already, and Gibbs missed some games as well. But if that continues, I mean, obviously it'll be a more of a split than it was. Gibbs was getting acclimated into the offense. But now I think he's earned more touches. But I think Montgomery will still be the guy that'll have the chances to score the touchdowns.
I think rest of season, something that needs to be said is you feel good about putting either of them in your starting lineup.
Yep.
If I have Monty or Gibbs after this bye week, I I feel good as long as either of them are healthy at having them in my lineup. Even if both are there, I expect enough production for both, or they'll be consistent, reliable running backs. With that in mind, I'm going to keep us on the Detroit side of the ball, but we're not going to focus on, you know, some irrelevant position like the running back. We're going to focus on an MVP type position like the quarterback. And a guy that he's not going to win the MVP, but you could arguably make a case for him to be like fifth on the standings right now for it. He's not this name you throw around with those top tier QBs, but he's damn near producing like it. He's QB9 right now. He finished QB9 last year. I mean, he had not a good week this past week by any stretch of the imagination. He finished at QB20, which was actually his third lowest finish on the year. His worst week so far was against Baltimore when he finished QB24 with 10.36 points. That's Mr. Jared Goff. Look, this dude helped me win a ton of leagues last year. He's going to help me win more this year, and he needs some respect to his name at this point.
Yeah.
You know, uh, I understand that he is not Josh Allen, that he's not Patrick Mahomes. The Lions and Jared Goff understand that as well. They don't try and make him be a game saver. He is a glorified game manager, and to me, I view him as like prime Carson Palmer. Someone that was really respected in fantasy, super consistent, super reliable, a guy that could flirt with MVP conversations, but was never going to finish in that like top 3. But someone that year in, year out, you could go to him late at the quarterback position and rely on him in one QB formats, but you can feel damn good about him as your QB2 on on a super flex team, let alone a QB1. I mean, he's producing like a QB1. I have him in a few super flex leagues where you put him with, I mean, damn, someone like Russell Wilson, and that's 2 top 15 QBs right there. Thoughts
Yeah.
on Jared
Yeah, I
Goff,
mean, if you play the
Jamie?
matchups, I know Jared Goff plays better at home, but I mean, still, you could just play the matchups and you can get a top 10 quarterback out of them.
And I would say the road versus home case has been less so this year. He had the Baltimore one, but then
That's a tough
but,
defense.
but he's produced. I mean, he had 16 on the road against Kansas City week 1. He had 14 on the road against Green Bay, but he had 26 on the road against Tampa.
Mhm.
So that's where I'm less concerned about matchups, and especially end of the year playoff time. He plays Chicago, Denver, Minnesota for 14,
Oh,
15, 16.
dude, right
Um,
there. See, that's the league
yeah.
winner.
Yeah, week 17 is Dallas, but honestly, that doesn't concern me either with him because he's been consistent enough even against good defenses where I would expect them to be in a shootout before a low scoring game.
Yeah.
So, with that in mind, I love Jared Goff. I think he's a guy that if I'm trying to make a move for a quarterback at the deadline, that's a name I would go after because it's someone where there's still for some reason a stink to his name where you don't have to pay that elite price. But he produces like it. There's no reason to question it at this point in time. Jordan, any thoughts on Jared Goff?
Man, I agree, man. And a lot of times for a lot of people, he's their second quarterback, or like you mentioned in a 2 QB league, he's for a lot of people their second quarterback. So the end of the year schedule is so easy that like if you have a stud and Golf is behind him, you may trade the stud quarterback to get better, like a better return, and just roll with Golf as you start. I'm comfortable with that. Like I have him on a team with Jalen Hurts. I might think about moving Hurts to see what I can get and just roll with Golf after this bye.
Absolutely, I wouldn't be opposed to that. I mean, obviously, Hurts get no pun intended. It hurts getting rid of Hurts, but if you can draw in something like, say, I need a tight end,
Mhm.
I could easily use Hurts to go get one,
Right.
or whatever you need at that point. You're offering an elite enough of a talent, or if you didn't want to get rid of Hurts, you could always package Jared Goff with someone else too.
Yep.
I mean, I wouldn't be opposed either way there. But if you have Jared Goff as your backup in a 1 QB, feel free to be aggressive either with Goff in a package or with your starter, because I think you could feel good about either of them the rest of the way. Um, with that in mind, let's jump right into our real or fake of the week. Jordan, we're just going to go right to you again.
Rookie tight end. I mean, not rookie tight, but young tight end. Trey McBride, his performance this past week, obviously, Joshua Dobbs won't be there anymore to pepper him with 14 targets. And Clayton Tune is starting in week 9. However, um, I think they've realized the talent with Zach Ertz going on IR. That basically propelled him up to getting those opportunities. He took advantage of it this past week. I anticipate he'll continue to take advantage of it. I mean, besides Hollywood Brown and Michael Wilson sprinkled here and there, McBride is one of the most consistent targets they have who can produce. So Kyler should be coming back after Clayton Tune stinks up the joint this upcoming week. And I think he'll be a solid tight end moving forward. It's not doesn't mean much to say he can be a top 12 tight end with how bad the position has been. But I can see him really being solid for people who missed on tight end or tried to get some guys late who haven't panned out. If you can pick him up, or if you already picked him up, you can roll with him. I think may be tough this week. I know they have Cleveland, and like I said, Clayton Tune's playing. But when Kyler gets back and gets rolling, I think it'll be good that you kept him, and you'll be able to use him at some point.
Yeah.
I agree 100%. I love Trey McBride. Jamie, your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, wasn't he your pickup last year? The pickup of the week.
Yep, he's been a guy I've been talking about on every show. Trey
I went and I
McBride.
saw him in one of my leagues. I picked him up. It was our going for 2 zombie league. So he's on my bench right now. And all you can ask for is like, what, 6, 7 targets a week for a top 10 tight end. He could easily get that every week, even with Dobbs or whoever is what's his name, Tune.
We've seen Kyler Murray utilize tight ends. We watched it with Ertz. McBride was the big name coming out of his draft.
So he's not going to get 10 receptions every week, but he could still get
but
5,
Ertz is
6 a week.
At least. I think the sky is the limit with someone like McBride. I think we very quickly forgot that he was the star tight end out of his draft class, and it just got swept away when he was put behind Ertz, and Ertz was really productive from day one coming over from Philly and had immediate chemistry with Kyler. But Ertz is hurt. Kyler's coming back, and with that in mind, I think Kyler's going to be utilizing the tight end. McBride's on the field a lot, 82% of snaps this past week. But yeah, not anticipating 14 targets, but I like that 6 to 8 targets a week, which is still going to put you flirting with top 10. Yeah, it's a scarce position. I love McBride a lot there. On the subject of the reels, Jamie, you're switching it up position-wise, but who you got for us?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the running back, Gus Edwards, because they didn't go out. They didn't trade for a running back. This is 2 weeks in a row now. He had big games. I know he had 3 touchdowns this past week. That's not going to be sustainable. But we've seen at least 15 to 20 touches the past 2 weeks, and there's always going to be touchdown potential in that offense. So he's going to end up as an RB2 starter every week, especially with bye weeks coming up. Like, you're going to have to start him in your RB2 spot. And he also has that RB1, or at least low-end RB1 potential. He's been catching a couple passes here and there. So, I mean, you got to start him, man. And if you could, trade him. Trade him to a contender. If he's on your roster and you're not winning, trade him to a contender, man. Get something for him. I was thinking about trading him for like a late second, early third. My friend Allie, she has a bunch of picks and she needs a running back. And I was like, well, you got these picks. Let's work it out a trade. So right now I'm in the middle of working that out with her, but I think rest of the season he's going to be an RB2 type.
All right, Jordan, what are your thoughts on Gus Edwards? Let's wrap it up on Gus before we address someone in the chat.
Okay, yeah. Gus has just been getting the red zone opportunities the last couple of weeks. If we remember at the beginning of the year, Justice Hill was the guy getting those red zone carries, getting some of those touchdowns. Lamar had a couple of games where he ran some in. Now Gus is getting those. If he continues to get those, he's not going to get all of them, but if he continues to get those, having those chances to score, he's going to be very valuable because the Ravens get to the red zone. That's one thing that they'll do. And the running back who gets those touches in that offense is going to be very valuable. And Gus is that guy right now. And just keep rolling with him, or if you can, sell high on him.
Yeah, sell high if you can. I like Gus right now. I'll allude to the Ravens backfield a little bit more here shortly. I'll get into my reel after we address this. We've got Alpha in the chat on YouTube. Hey guys, can you help me make some trades? I'm 4-4 in a 14 league PPR. I'm willing to trade anyone to get some better players and want to make some fair trades. All right, well, if you want to give us an idea of what your roster is, we can help you a little bit more there. Oh, there we are. We are getting that as we speak. Right now, quarterbacks are Stafford, Stroud, running backs Swift, Pacheco, Henderson, Roschon, Fournette, Spears, wide receivers Kupp, Hollywood, Palmer, Michael Thomas, tight end Ferguson. Said 14 league PPR.
I'm assuming it's one quarterback.
Yeah. Is it dynasty or redraft? I'm assuming it's redraft.
Yeah, I think so.
It looks like a redraft.
Um,
And do you start 2 receivers or 3 or 1 flex, 2 flex?
Yeah.
Either way, it's going to look like a starting lineup of, let's say, Stroud, Swift, Pacheco, Kupp, Hollywood, and then flexes of Palmer, Thomas with Ferguson at tight end, and then all those running backs would be on the bench.
What if you take like Henderson and Palmer? Okay,
Yeah.
2, 2, 1. Okay, yeah. So take like Henderson and Palmer. Try to get a better receiver as your flex, or even a wide receiver 2 and put Hollywood in your flex.
Mm-hmm.
I would try and upgrade at running back. I would try and use Michael Thomas or Palmer with Pacheco or with Swift to upgrade my running back room. When I'm looking at that lineup, I'm looking at immediate need being running back because I don't necessarily trust Swift or Pacheco as my true workhorse running backs as a contender. I like them, but I want a more trusted mouth that's being fed. With that in mind, someone that I expect to have increased workload week over week while Zach Moss has been productive would be someone like Jonathan Taylor. And I think that's a guy that you could realistically pursue based off the workload concerns with Zach Moss. So I would look at your running back room first and foremost. Do you guys agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, you can even get Monty. I know he's going to be on a bye this week, but he's going to come back healthy.
Yeah, but that's where, like, if I'm trying to do a true upgrade, because I feel like Swift could almost be a 1-for-1. Or like, I want to go another tier up. I like Monty a lot, but I want to really get someone that I feel like is the RB1.
Top 5 potential.
Yeah, someone that rest a year could be strong. Someone else I would maybe look at getting for cheap with your roster because I like running backs would be Aaron Jones. He's been very unimpressive. He's been on a pitch count, and that's where he's so old where I think you could get him for cheap because we've all been so underwhelmed. So with a roster like yours, where I don't necessarily love a lot of your running back depth, but it's guys that you want to have, someone like Aaron Jones might be worth buying for cheap just for the upside come rest of the year.
I also want to recommend going to the Going for Two Discord, and these questions are perfect to get detailed answers from all the analysts from our Going for Two Discord.
Neek, happy Halloween. Good to see you in the chat on YouTube. Please feel free to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. Let's see. Traded Godwin, JT, and Downs for Mahomes, Rashad White, and Amari Cooper. Current team sits at Howell, Taylor, McCaffrey. Oh, wait. So he got rid of
Godwin and Jonathan.
He got rid of White. He got rid of White, Cooper, and Mahomes.
No, he acquired White, Mahomes.
He acquired him. He traded Godwin, Taylor, and Downs for Mahomes, White, and Cooper.
Oh, I was just confused because he listed Taylor as his running backs. So
I like his running backs.
Wait, who's JT then? If
Jonathan Taylor.
But then who?
But he mentions Taylor right after Howell.
Right.
All right. Please answer that in the chat. We'll come back to that. My real one of the week, Alpha. or Neek, if you want to address it. I was saying as the other team before the trade. My bad. Yeah, just tell us what your roster is, and we'll help you out. We just need to know what your roster is. But he gets it too. He knows. He saw the struggle. But with that in mind, my real one of the week, another young tight end, a true rookie, a guy that's just seeing a increased workload week after week. It's Mr. Dalton Kincaid, a guy that I view as someone that could truly finish as a top 5 tight end. Someone that I love dearly. There's more weeks of evidence now for the excitement to be real, and I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. This is a guy I've loved all year. This is a guy that I'm very excited about because he was a rookie where I had a lot of plans built around him, and I don't like building around rookies, but Kincaid was one that I was really hoping could be my guy at tight end. And, Jake Ferguson filled the hole enough weeks, and now I've got Kincaid kind of holding that spot. Feeling great about it the rest of the year. What are your thoughts on Dalton Kincaid, Jordan?
So I got to ask you this very important question. Is the love fest for Kincaid on Christian Watson levels?
Yes. He was my Christian Watson of this year. Yes.
Okay, well then, there you go. I agree 100% with Kincaid, man. I liked them a lot too. I was a little worried with the Bills and how much weapons they had in Josh Allen, but Dawson Knox was really aggravating me in the first half of the year with his production and the amount of snaps he was playing. But obviously, with him going down, it's the Kincaid show. He's not going to lose that job again. Dawson Knox may just get ready to go to another team now. It's over for him. And I like the way they've been using him recently, and I feel like his wheels up for him in that offense.
No, I agree. Wheels up. I love that Dawson Knox is out for the sake of Kincaid. Obviously, I hate to see someone go down for injury, but we know that Bills like to use their tight ends, and that's coming his way now. I mean, he was already getting on the field anyway. It was just split targets. Dawson Knox was on the field a good amount, but now that he can't, it's Kincaid's show, and we're all just here for it. Jamie, thoughts on Dalton Kincaid?
I mean, now that Knox is out, they're gonna use him more. Even when they play 11 personnel, Knox isn't going to be on the sideline. He's going to be in that tight end position. So he's going to get more targets. That's all I could say.
He's sending away Taylor, Godwin, and Downs. This is his roster before.
Okay, so now
he's adding in Mahomes. He's adding in Mahomes,
White,
White, and Cooper.
I mean, you're getting an upgrade at quarterback.
Yeah, upgrading at quarterback for sure.
Downgrade at running back
for sure.
I
guess upgrade at receiver.
I would personally turn around and try and package like Amari and Puka for another running back. Or actually not even another running back. Maybe I would try and go. And now that I have Mahomes, I might turn around and use that package. Say, hey, here's Mostert and White for an upgrade at running back. Or here's
Mostert's on his bench.
Or actually, I would Mostert's at his flex. But I would put Rachaad White and Amari Cooper in a package, maybe. See what you can get there in regards to I don't know. At this point, I would try and upgrade an additional wide receiver on top of AJ Brown, or I would try and get or another running back that I feel I can trust more. But I don't know. I feel like your running backs are good. Mostert can be that RB2. I feel comfortable there. But yeah, I don't like Amari Cooper.
I don't either. I'm a Browns fan.
I don't like Rachaad White, but at the same time, you got Patrick Mahomes. So anytime you're getting Patrick Mahomes, that's always a good situation to be in.
Yeah, so the more I look at it, it's like one of those things where yes, you're getting Mahomes. However, Jonathan Taylor could be like a league winner moving forward, which we kind of discussed. Sam Howell isn't Mahomes, but I mean he just put up 38 this past week. Like he could probably get you by if the rest of your team is solid, especially if we don't like Rashad White and we don't like Amari Cooper. Then Mahomes, you traded 3 people for Mahomes essentially in a 1 quarterback league.
Itty bit. Itty Bitty's in the chat asking a question that Itty Bitty was in the chat on the last show as well. Same question. My advice was to pursue tight end at this point. Initially, their thoughts were to try and make a move where, upgrading at QB, and I said no. I like Kyler the rest of the way, but I like McBride at tight end. But that's where I was saying maybe try and upgrade off of McBride. There's some top tier tight ends. I think the rest of that roster is good enough where realistically you could just package a Rashee Rice and a DJ Moore or something. Or there's plenty of ways you can get creative with it, but tight end is what I thought it should be gone after. What are you guys' thoughts with this?
Yeah, I would go after a tight end. I mean, you could package McBride with somebody just off McBride's big game.
Yeah.
Get one of them top guys. I know Hawkinson lost his quarterback, but you could probably get him low.
Mm-hmm.
My advice was Kincaid. Yeah,
someone that I think you can buy for relatively cheap. You could offer McBride as a young asset that's showing promise.
Bench piece.
Yeah. I would like that. Kincaid would be one that would. Jordan, your thoughts? Because otherwise, yeah, Kincaid was one. There's a guy that has Kelsey and Laporta. I was saying he should probably try and target that team.
Yes, sure. Yeah, I would try to get Laporta. He'll be cheaper, awesome. Definitely would try to do that.
Yeah. We also have Josh in the chat. Would you trade Lamar and Demario Douglas for Jalen Hurts? 20-man PPR roster is Lamar, JT, Aaron Jones, Tyreek, Christian Kirk, Kittle, and Jacoby Myers.
No.
Yes, I would.
You're upgrading slightly, and you're only giving up Demario Douglas.
I'm going to assume if it's a 20-man that it's a dynasty.
Oh, 20-man. Yeah. I missed that.
And if it's dynasty, I like it. If it's redraft, it's a push. My only thoughts are, since I pretty much exclusively play in dynasty, if this is a dynasty, I'd be down because I think there's just more longevity for Jalen Hurts' career as a more pocket passer rather than the running aspect of Lamar. I think there's more upside for a shorter period with Lamar. And that's not that both won't have long, successful careers, but I think Jalen's just will be even longer and more successful. Thoughts there?
Yeah, if it is dynasty, I agree. I would rather have the Hurts side. But with redraft, I don't think there's that big of a gap between Lamar and Hurts to make this trade.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Mario Douglas isn't AJ Brown, but he might be the Patriots' #1 receiver. And
it looks like he's the most talented one at this point. I agree with that. And yeah, I think in a redraft it doesn't really make sense. I think it's cheap, but it's a push. Lamar and Jalen are essentially the same thing. You're already in the cream of the crop at tight end. So if they have interest in Demario, I would use him with someone else to try and maybe use him with Jacoby Myers to try and upgrade that guy. Because I think the rest of that lineup's good as is.
Yes, for sure. 20-team
league. Yeah, and if someone sees value in Demario, then I would try and use Demario with someone else to get something of need rather than trying to do a minimal upgrade at the quarterback position. We also have.
He said it.
Go ahead.
He said it is a redraft league.
Yeah, it is a redraft. Yep. And then also, would you trade Baker Mayfield and Ridley for Andrews and Devontae Adams? 16-man PPR. Ridley has not been great every week either. The upside of Adams is there, and I noticed at tight end you mentioned Logan Thomas as the main name there, so Andrews is a clear upgrade in that regard. Yeah, I think that's a great deal for you. I think
Yeah,
100%.
100%. Do that.
That's a great deal for you,
Yeah.
man. If somebody sent that to you, slam accept.
Because if you sent me that offer and you were offering me Baker and Calvin for Mark and Devontae, you would not get a very happy Zach in your DMs. I'll be honest. So if they're sending you that, absolutely take it because that's a good deal. We definitely always like seeing those come in the inbox.
He has a championship roster, it looks like.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
yeah,
if you add more
you
injuries,
got to be feeling good about that roster. That's where at that point, something like that, I think that puts you over the top, especially when Devontae can slide into a flex spot.
yeah,
Yeah.
because he has Kenneth Walker as well. So it's
Oh,
he,
yeah. If Devontae might even be a bench guy if he's got. Yeah. No, I love that.
he's
That's a
yeah, he's loaded.
it's a great roster. While we are talking about good things like making trades at the deadline, let's talk about some bad things, or maybe not bad, but fake. With that in mind, Jordan, who was your fake guy of the week?
I don't like to call this guy's performance fake because I actually like him, but I'm gonna say DeAndre Hopkins, man. I mean, obviously anybody is not gonna score 3 touchdowns every week. That's not the fake part about it. But he only had 6 targets. Will Levis comes off the sidelines and throws for 4 tubs, and I just don't see that passing offense looking like that on a regular basis. I expect DeAndre to be the number one receiver for the Titans, but that has not yielded any type of positive results the last several years. So being a number one receiver on the Titans means nothing to me. I don't think that this is something that we can expect. I don't think fantasy production is something that I'm going to be. I'm not going to be comfortable starting him, regardless of what happened this past week. He's going to have to do it 2 more times for me to trust the Titans offense. And then they're saying that it's possible that, I mean, maybe Mike Vrabel's just lying, but Tannehill, if he's healthy, he'll be back and he could be a starter. If that happens, hell no, I don't want any piece of that. So yeah, he had a good game, a lot of long plays, which he's not really like a big play guy anymore per se. He had a 61-yard play. He doesn't really do those type of things anymore. He's more a possession guy, first downs, moving the chain. So you can't expect him to have those type of big plays anymore. And I just don't trust it, man. I mean, the offense sucks, and he had a good game. I would use this as an opportunity to sell high on him if I had him, and then keep it moving.
I agree.
Yep.
Now's the time to sell. Don't want to
Yeah.
wait around and find out. Now with this Tennessee offense, at this point we know it's ground and pound first and foremost. No need to trust it. More of a fluke week. I mean, we know what D Hop is as a talent. It's nice to see some of those weeks of production still and relevance there for him still. But I'll happily ship him away and let that relevance be on somewhere else if I own him.
Exactly.
Jamie, thoughts on DeAndre before we jump into your guy?
Yeah, I know there was a part in the game he had 2 receptions, 2 touchdowns. Like you ain't gonna get that every week. Plus, Will Levis, I think he had a 16% touchdown rate. That ain't gonna happen either, man. That's gonna go way down. But this week he does have the Steelers. Steelers are pretty bad against the pass, so he might have a decent game this week. If he does, sell him because, like Jordan said, he needs to see it 3 times. It's not gonna happen.
Right. Right.
I agree. With that in mind, Jamie, how about you lead us into your fake player of the week?
Yeah, this one hurt. My fake player of the week is Darrington Evans from Appalachian State. Like, I actually like this guy coming out. I actually stashed him a couple years ago when he was with the Titans, and it just never happened. So I dropped him all in my leagues. But he ended the week at running back 17. He was with the team for 3 weeks, and Roshan's been out for 3 weeks. So I don't. His carries and his receptions should have went to Roshan this week, and Roshan would have had the top 20 week. And that just makes me mad. Like, you're not going to see it from Darrington Evans again. Like, I think he only had like 4 carries, 3 receptions. Those should have went to Roshan. Maybe they just held Roshan back just because it was the first game back. But going forward, you're not going to want to start Darrington Evans. Don't chase those points. He's not going to be top 20 ever again in his whole career. So just leave him on the waiver. Don't pick him up. It's going to be Roschon time from here on out.
I've been hearing that it's going to be Roschon time for a while now, and I'm not sure that's going to come to fruition.
Someone had to say it. Someone had to say it.
For a multitude of reasons. One, because Dante Foreman has really been a good player for them. Two, like that injury kind of messed up his opportunity window. If he would have came back that first week, like when he got hurt on a Thursday, if he'd have been back that first Sunday, then I would be with you. But now he's given Foreman a chance to kind of get a hold of the job, and then now Herbert should be back soon. So then that's even more mess that he's going to have to sort through. So I'm not sure if it's going to get to that point before the end of the season. Now going into next season, yes, but right now I'm worried. I'm worried about Roschon time.
Sorry, I'm still scrolling trying to find Roschon on the running back list. Oh, I passed 2 other Bears names first. What do you know?
Yeah, I mean, if he had that touchdown Darrington Evans had, he would have been above Darrington Evans in the ranks.
Roschon would have been a lot above a lot of guys, but instead he finished running back 36 or worse every week except week 1.
So
where
he had 3 less carries than Foreman this week. He had more targets than Foreman.
Yep.
Yet to have double-digit carries, that is. Yet to even get the double-digit workload.
I mean, even without getting double-digit carries, he was RB8 in week 1. So, I mean he's got that upside. He's got that upside.
That upside when his QB was there. Look, Roschon Truther. It's time to face the truth. You got to hear the harsh reality. It's not over yet. It's not over
yet, man.
I don't expect you to, but reality's facing you, and it's looking mean in the mirror right now.
Yeah,
and it's
all I needed. I just projected him to get. I needed 8.4 points from him this week to win my silly string challenge.
And did you win?
Nope. Oh, okay. So you're gonna see me get silly string this week.
Well, we can expect more weeks of Jamie getting silly strung if he's got Roschon in the lineup. With that in mind, we're going to move on over to my fake guy, which would be Darren Waller. He's been fairly productive while the team hasn't been. The Giants have been a very underwhelming story as a whole, especially on offense to start the year. Darren Waller has been relatively consistent at a bleak tight end position. However, he had a lingering hamstring injury where he was questionable coming in, aggravated it early in the game, was out the rest of the game. With that in mind, the reason why he's listed on my fake is specifically because of his injury. This sounds all too familiar with Darren Waller, where suddenly we sign up for a second half of the year where he maybe plays 3 or 4 games. I hope I'm wrong. He's been consistent. I want to see him out there with a healthy Daniel Jones. Obviously, don't really know what that looks like because we've never really had that this year. But I am very much so concerned about what Darren Waller's rest of season looks like with his injury concerns right now, because this is a guy where year after year we've watched that turf monster get him, and in the end, he's only playing 10 or 12 games. Thoughts? Jamie, I'll go to you first.
Yeah, I mean, he did it. His performance was fake in a sense that I don't think he'll ever have this low of fantasy points. He had 1.4 fantasy points this week.
Oh, it's not about this week's production. And he got hurt at the beginning of the game, so I wouldn't really consider
it. But yeah, he still led the team in yards with 4 yards. I mean, that's just how bad that offense is, man.
Almost as many yards as Roschon.
Yeah, exactly. Put them on any other offense, totally different story. But yeah, I feel bad for Waller, man, with the talent coming at the end of his career.
Yeah, and there's no question about the talent and what I think he still can be the rest of the year if he's healthy. It's just a matter of, do I trust that he'll stay healthy at this point based off what I've seen in the past with his career? Jordan, what are your thoughts there with Darren Waller?
Yeah, and going into the season, they mentioned that he had a chronic hamstring issue. That it was something that he would try to play through, and he would show up on the injury report, say he was fine, and I'm assuming it's gotten worse now. And a guy who's 30 years old, I think, um, that doesn't really get better for you. Hamstring injuries linger. They had a guy named Tommy DeVito as their quarterback this past week. I mean, I had never heard of this guy before. So that's why Wallace still led the team in yards, even though he left early. Yeah, I think I don't think he's gonna be healthy now. I had some shares of him. I'm worried because it's one of those things where he doesn't really seem like a guy who just gets healthy and plays. He kind of tries to play it and tweaks it again, and then he's out longer. So I would be worried if I had him. If he was healthy enough to play in the next couple of weeks, I'd try to sell him if you could. I know it'd be hard to, but I would try to get off of him because I don't see this injury going away.
No, I'm glad we're on the same page there. Also, real quick in the chat, Josh asked, I traded Russ and Connor for Lamar and Gerald Everett. Good trade. I don't think we really need to discuss that too much. I think we all probably agree that the Lamar side is very much so the winner there. So good job there.
Yep.
With that in mind, it's time for some host choice. Jordan, what is your randomness of the week? What do you got for us?
We mentioned it a little bit when we talked about the trade deadline, but I have no idea what the hell the Commanders are doing. Their defense hasn't been great, obviously, but some of the best players on defense, Montez Sweat, Chase Young, they ship them out of town. This is a team that isn't out of it completely. I mean, I know they just narrowly lost a shootout with the Eagles. And I guess that's part of the problem. But I mean, they're a team that's not tanking, is what I'm saying. And anytime you have some talent on defense, I assume you try to work with that talent. I mean, and then not only did you trade those guys, you traded Chase Young to arguably the best team in the NFC through the first 5 weeks in the 49ers. So you wasn't getting through them anyway with Young and Sweat, and now you've traded both of those guys away. I don't know what they're doing. Like you mentioned, Zach, they didn't get rid of anybody on offense, so obviously they're happy with what they have there. They have weapons and stuff, but I'm just not sure. Like I would assume that I guess they just felt like those guys weren't good enough for them, and they didn't want to have to pay them eventually down the road because it wouldn't be worth it, I guess. But if you're a team trying to compete, which I know that they are, I don't think you trade two guys like that for what they got for them.
I agree. I think my quick synopsis of this is just that Washington's in a complete overall. Now that they have that new ownership coming in, they're going to be getting rid of Ron Rivera. They're trying to just kind of turn a new page, and I think Young was part of that. Obviously, it could have been the start of that next chapter, but I think it's just even more so the ownership saying, hey, we're coming in and we're going to start fresh. So I'm expecting a lot of changes this offseason. Jamie, thoughts there before we move on to your bet?
Real quick, when I saw those two trades, I was just waiting for the next one that says McLaurin, the Chiefs. I just kept waiting for it, but it never happened. So
because when I saw those two trades, I thought, okay, they're going full scale.
You thought they would get rid of McLaurin, right?
Yeah. Or anybody with value, but they kept a lot of other guys.
Gibson was another one I was waiting for, man.
What an underwhelming deadline. Jamie, cheer us up. Give us a bet.
All right, so real quick, it's just a 3-leg parlay for Thursday night. Levis right now, his under-over is 202.5 receiving yards. I mean, we saw how well he did, and the Steelers aren't that great. So I went over on the 202.5. Then you got Pickens over 53.5. I know we kind of talked about the Pickett injury, but I think Pickens against the weak secondary, he could easily get 53 yards. So I took the over on that. And then Jalen Warren, man, he's been getting a lot of receiving work. His receiving yards are at 18.5. So I took the over on that also. Parlay that, it's at plus 525, man. So I put $10 on it to win like $63.
I like it. Jordan, thoughts there?
Yeah, I like it. I, I'm worried. I mean, this is two terrible pass defenses. So I mean, obviously, I think the passing game should be fine. We don't know what's going to happen with the quarterback situation. It seems like Trubisky is more of a Deontay guy. And if Pickett leaves the game early, which I mean, who knows, then that may mess up your 50 yards. But if Pickett plays the whole game, I think it's a bet that can definitely be.
I mean, Pickens could get one catch for 70 yards, like we saw it against the Browns. So
That's true. Or you also could get one catch for 22, like he did against the Jags. So
true that, man. So that's probably why it's at 525 right now. So yeah, or 555.
We talked about some good names there on that parlay. On my rant, I want to discuss something real quick. I want to discuss the NFL trade deadline. The fantasy community, the football community as a whole, they like to think of their sport as the baddest thing ever. It is the biggest league in the U.S. It's the biggest sport in the U.S. There's no arguing that. But what we love and glorify about the NBA trade deadline is not what the NFL trade deadline is. Um, we see all these big names constantly traded in the NBA, stars moving locations, demanding trades, getting those demands met. We don't see that often in the NFL. We had discussions of Kirk Cousins and then, oh, no trade deadline waiving. We flirted with all these rumors. Oh, is JT going elsewhere? Oh, no, he's just going to extend. We had other names that were speculated: Devontae Adams, Brian Burns, Saquon Barkley, Danielle Hunter, Derrick Henry, Jerry Jeudy, Patrick Surtain, Cortland Sutton, Mike Evans, T. Higgins, DeAndre Hopkins, Renfro, Brissett, Carl Lawson. Those are all names that were very much so active in rumors leading up to the trade deadline, and all have the same home after the trade deadline. My rant here is more than anything just emphasizing this is the NFL. Our big trades, for the most part, come in the offseason. Otherwise, the stuff we see, it's, maybe one big name at the deadline by a contender, but that's about it. It seems like it's the 49ers making that big move. Last year it was McCaffrey. This year it was Chase Young. But otherwise, there's not a lot of big, sexy splashes. It's a lot of smart GMs making little crafty moves, the Rasul Douglas types, where it's giving up scraps to get hopefully a better corner in that secondary, but nothing that's going to really matter on the fantasy side of the ball or anything that's really going to have a long-standing impact on the league. So with that in mind, disappointed, not surprised. I think we need to do better as a community to temper those expectations and know that, yeah, we always hear names rumored. Yeah, we always like to dream of guys going to other places, but for the most part, the NFL just doesn't operate that way. Jordan, I'll go to you first.
I mean, James Harden was traded this morning in NBA. So like, that's kind of going to your point. Like,
yep.
When guys, I know, the structures of contracts are different and the structures of the organizations and the league is different and things of that nature. Basketball is more of an individual sport, however, but it's just one of those things where like we get hyped up for these things and then they just don't happen. And it's frustrating because as a fantasy community, obviously we want to see how this is going to affect our fantasy teams. But when defensive guys are getting traded, I mean, that doesn't help. That doesn't help us. And then also a lot of times when you see the big splashes for a team that is trying to go all in, the Rams made some trades. They made trades a couple of years ago when they were trying to, make that Super Bowl run. The 49ers did it. There's not many teams that are in those type of situations. So we won't see a lot of those year over year unless it's maybe in the offseason.
Jamie?
I just got to say, these script writers need to do a better job on helping our fantasy teams succeed. That's it.
I'm glad we're all on the same page. With that in mind, let's quickly go through Cheats of the Week. We talked about this guy a little bit via those questions in the chat. Thank you again to all the chatters. Demario Douglas. Jordan, tell us why he's your waiver wire transaction of the week.
Well, one, because for me it was hard to find some other people because a lot of people have been heavily rostered that I was interested in. But I mean, Douglas has an opportunity here, like we talked about. Kendrick Bourne is out for the year. and he was the number one guy for Mac Jones, or Mac and Cheese, as Mike would call him. And now Douglas is going to step into that role. He's one of the more talented guys on the team. Juju's knee is in shambles. Devontae Parker has been, I don't know, exiled from the game plan, it seems. Hunter Henry has kind of disappeared, even though he may kind of reemerge with the injury to Bourne. But Douglas is the most talented guy. He's young. He's athletic. Mac has given him targets, so I anticipate that continuing. A team that's going to be trailing a lot, throwing a lot, why not get the guy that could be the number one receiver?
Jamie, who's your cheat of the week?
It's Rashid Shaheed. I know we talked about him multiple times on this show before. I think 2 weeks ago, I think he was my fake player of the week, only because he had that big performance. He was in the top 12, and the next week he didn't really do much, but he's been playing about 50% of the snaps, and he does get targeted when he's on the field. I think he had like 8 targets, 7 targets, 6 targets here and there. Last week he only had 3 targets, caught all 3 of them, had 153 yards and a touchdown. I know it's not going to happen every week, but he's going to be that boom bust or boom semi-bust guy, because he hasn't hit less than 5 or 6 or 6 or 7 fantasy points at any point this week or this whole year.
In earlier tonight on the week 9 waiver wire show for Fantasy and Frames, Gator and I, we discussed Rashid Shaheed as a guy that you should target.
Yeah.
No, we agree. And if you don't like the boom bust of Rashid Shaheed, another guy that's available in that similar roster percentage would be Jaden Reed. And one's more boom bust, one's more consistent, but that's where they're about the same average in the end.
Yeah, I was gonna say Shaheed's is what we wanted Gabriel Davis to be.
Yeah. Relatively, yes. I would agree with that. My cheat of the week, we're going a little deeper here. This is a guy that I want to keep on your radar now. Start stashing now, and I think there's going to be opportunity in the weeks to come. That'd be Keaton Mitchell, the rookie for the Baltimore Ravens. He's currently on the practice squad. He just got put there after he was on the IR. They're trying to give him another week to get more healthy. Right now, it's Gus Edwards, Justice Hill as the primary running backs. We've seen Gus Edwards do well. We've already talked about him tonight on this show. With that in mind, though, I love Keaton Mitchell. I think this is a guy that he's listed higher up their depth chart going into the year. They have some high hopes, and we've seen them feed multiple running backs before. With him being a rookie, if he can show some flashes with that opportunity he's going to be given at some point, I'm really high on what he could be the rest of the year, especially at a bleak running back position via waivers. Before we go anywhere, though, we've got Andrew on YouTube asking, would you trade Michael Mayer for Jahan Dotson full PPR tight end premium? I'll just quickly say no. I would keep Michael Mayer over Jahan Dotson. I don't trust that Jahan's consistent enough. Even though they keep throwing Jahan's way, it just hasn't necessarily been consistent. Jordan, thoughts there?
No, I wouldn't trade tight end premium.
Keep Mayer.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Let's see. Then we've got Tingley on YouTube as well. Happy Halloween. Would y'all trade Kelsey or Kamara to get Diggs plus Pollard?
Ooh, that's tough.
I would if I could trade Kamara to get Diggs and Pollard. Yes, I wouldn't do it for Kelsey.
Exactly.
Yep.
And then Jamie as well. Would you drop Howell or Pickett for Levis? I wouldn't.
Super flex. Fourth quarterback.
I wouldn't drop Howell, but I would probably drop Pickett. I've never liked Kenny Pickett, so I would.
Yeah, I don't love either. I would do Levis for this week and this week only. If it's super flex. Let's see. I give Derrick Henry and Jordan Addison for Eckler. Is this good? No. I would not.
No. Don't do that.
No. Jordan Addison. No. I mean, terrible first name for Mr. Addison, but. No. No, I do not think you should do that trade. I think you're giving up way too much for Eckler and Henry are essentially the same thing.
So I gotta interject here. Is there any truth from you guys' standpoint that you think Tajay Spears may eat into Derrick Henry's workload?
I mean, that's the dream. That's what we've all been hoping for all along. We've yet to really see it. We've seen it a little, but
Okay.
it's tough to really see. I think as long as Derek's there, it's still going to be Derek's backfield. But
Understandable. I don't think Tajay Spears is going to eat this workload, but I just wanted to throw it out there. And then Kirk is out for the year, so Jordan Addison's value is going to be less than we had anticipated previously. Justin Jefferson should be back.
Back, yeah.
I would say yes and no. Cousins is a game manager. Cousins isn't bad. Dobbs wasn't awful. Dobbs isn't as good as Cousins, but Addison and Jefferson are extreme talents, and they're what are they suddenly just going to turn Madison and Akers into these workhorse backs? No. So with that in mind, I'm not worried about Addison or Jefferson.
Well, from that standpoint, then no, I wouldn't do it. But I look at what Eckler can be and the upside that he possesses.
Yeah, I agree. I see the concern, but I just when I look at Minnesota, I'm like, what? This backfield? No. And that's where I'd rather rely on Dobbs throwing the ball than bet against Addison and Jefferson because I'm not worried about this running back suddenly stealing the show.
Right, for sure.
But with that in mind, Jordan, how about you tell everyone where they can find you?
Catch me on here Tuesday night. Every Wednesday or every week on goingfor2.com. I have cut or keep. Check the article out. But yeah, it's good having you here, man. It's been a long time. Hadn't seen you on the show or anything like that, so it's good to have you.
No, it's good to see you. Glad to be here again. We missed you last week. Jamie, tell everyone where they can find you as well.
Yeah, it's good to have Ron Burgundy as our host. I love it. But yeah, I'm here on Tuesday night cheat sheet every Tuesday, going for two. Sunday morning start sit with our host Ron Burgundy up there, and at Twitter X Jamie Perogue. Come find me.
You can find me on Twitter at BehindTheZach. On Tuesdays, you can find me first and foremost at Fantasy In Frames, where I'm doing the waiver wire show with Gator. Then later in the evenings, and actually next tonight, you'll be able to find me on Rum Boys, where we're doing Rum Pass, where I'll be covering the late night action of the basketball games. We've got some bets going right now for the Suns versus the Spurs, and then also in the other one too. So feel free to join me over there. Otherwise, every Sunday morning, you can find me on the Going for Two Network with Jamie. And as that's the pregame show, start sit questions. Come hit us with those. We'll always gladly help you out there. Thank you for all the trade questions tonight. Good luck in all your leagues. Good seeing you. Stay classy.